Good evening, campers, and welcome back to Stellaris. I'm Commander Exorcist, and today we're going to be taking a look at add-ons and DLC expansions for Stellaris, because if you were to go to the Steam store or to GOG or even on console at this point and look at the introductory base price of purchasing all of the content for this game, it rings up at about $250 to $275 US roughly. There's about 19 to 20 different sets of DLC and add-on packs for this game. Now that can be extremely intimidating for a new player, somebody who's just wanting to get into Stellaris. Well, you can take a look at that and go, there's absolutely no way that I'm paying $250 for a game that I'm not even sure I enjoy. And that's a fair assessment. And so there's two things that we're going to do in this video. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about something that Paradox is doing to try to alleviate that problem. And then I'm going to give you my personal selection. Now, these are my opinions, but I'm going to give you my personal selection of what I feel are essential DLCs if you were to purchase Stellaris today. Now, I do not believe in purchasing all of the DLC for this game if you're just getting into it. If you are not sure that Stellaris is the game for you, if it's something you haven't tried out and you just want to dip your toes into, then it's absolutely a foolish purchase to buy all of the DLC for this game. But there's a few out there that I honestly believe are integral to making Stellaris an overall enjoyable experience. And so that's what we're going to talk about in this video. First off, though, we're going to talk about Paradox's new policy or new option that they've thrown out for Stellaris players. Now, if you've been around the Stellaris forums or if you've seen any of the social media around the game recently, then you may be familiar with the new subscription model that Paradox is offering for Stellaris players. And so what this does is it allows players to subscribe to the game, and you receive full access to all of the DLC that are currently available. So if you pay $9 or $9.99 US a month, you get complete access to the base game and all of the current DLC. Now, looking at a subscription model like this, first off, I'm not a big fan of subscription models at all. I think that subscriptions are an awful choice, especially for standalone games like Stellaris. I can see them as part of an MMO, but something like this, I think this is a bad idea. And I'll talk about that, but I will talk first off of kind of some positive about this. And the positive is that it allows new players to get the full Stellaris experience without shelling out, $300 US to buy all of the content. And, it's an option that allows people to kind of test out the game and dip your toes in it. But for long-term use of Stellaris, if it's a game that you enjoy, this is not the way to go. It really isn't. And, even though Stellaris is pretty expensive on GOG and on Steam, it's usually on sale. So the base game typically runs for about $29 usually, but it's pretty common to find it on sale for 75% off. And so if you keep an eye on the Steam sales and the GOG sales, you can usually pick up Stellaris for a heavily discounted price over time. And so, I really don't encourage people who either have played Stellaris and are looking to play it long term to invest in the subscription model. Now, if you're considering trying out Stellaris and you want to experience kind of the whole thing, maybe try it out for a month, see if it's something you like. Or if you can find Stellaris on sale for about $9, that's probably your better bet to actually buy the base game, because the base game itself is a solid investment. It's a fun game by itself. You don't need any of the other DLC to make it enjoyable. But yeah, I'm just really not a big supporter of this. So I think that it's best to maybe purchase the game and a DLC or two. Look around. There's a wide variety of them. Find something that maybe piques your interest and invest in those. And then over time, you can add things to your collection. that might interest you. So yeah, definitely, I do not encourage anyone to participate in the subscription model, both in the fact that I don't think it's a good return on your investment, and in principle, I don't think this is a good precedent that we should be setting for the gaming community. And now that we've gotten the hard stuff out of the way, let's get into the fun stuff and get to the heart of the matter. So I did say earlier that I think that people would benefit from purchasing the base game, Stellaris, and then a couple of DLC to get you started, to kind of add a little bit of flavor to the game. And so what I've decided to do is I've decided to kind of break down what I feel are 4 of the best DLC that you can get started with. Now, these are my personal opinions. There's plenty of options out there. If you don't like my opinions, there's plenty of other YouTubers and content creators that have differing opinions on what is a good DLC option for Stellaris, and that's fine. But these are ones that I feel add a special flavor to the game that are essential. And so we're going to talk about those, and let's get started with the first one. But before we do that, I just want to talk about the base game. So the base game of Stellaris, as you know, it is a 4X galaxy simulator. So you are the Overlord, the controller of an empire. You can use the empires that are pre-built in the game, or you can design your own, and your goal is whatever you decide. So if you want to conquer the galaxy through military conquest, or you want to be working on diplomacy, or if you want to be a race of dolphins selling shoes to aliens across the galaxy, you can do that. Pretty much anything you can think of in Stellaris, you can make it happen. And so the base game by itself is actually not a bad purchase. It can be played by itself without any DLC added, and it is a solid experience. Now, Stellaris at the moment comes in 2 flavors, the PC version and the console version. Now, as you'll see on your screen, there's shots from each version. Those games are identical. Now, the interface is a little different because it's built on PC first, and then it's ported by a third-party company to consoles. The interface is different, but the function of the games are the same. So whether you purchase it on PC or console, you're getting somewhat of the same experience, just a little bit of a different UI experience. However, just be warned that if you purchase it on console, like many other games that fall into this genre, the updates are many months behind, sometimes years. And so console is just now getting some of the updates that have been on PC for a very long time. Like at the time of this recording, we just got Toxoids on console, and that was a long time ago. So at least in game years. So it is just something to be considerate of when you're looking at purchasing the game and how you want to go forward, what ecosystem you want to be involved in. But just know that whether you purchase it on PC or on console, it is the exact same functioning game. It just looks a little different as far as the interface. Now, my first recommendation for DLCs, and I honestly believe that if you're going to purchase Stellaris, this is a mandatory purchase, and that is Utopia. Utopia is one of the first expansions that came out for Stellaris, and it is a big one. It adds a huge selection of quality of life improvements to the game, but most importantly, it adds things like mega structures. So you've probably seen online pictures of Dyson spheres and ring worlds and all of these crazy cool gigantic structures in Stellaris. They come from Utopia, or at least most of them do. This is where the mega engineering was introduced. And so it adds a lot of quality of life improvements. There's some balance changes to Unity. And it also adds one of my favorite additions is the ability to become a fanatic purifier. So if you want to go around the galaxy and your desire is to cleanse the galaxy of all the heretics, then Utopia has your option. It has your civics. So that's definitely something to consider. But Utopia is one of those DLCs that I think universally across the community is loved. So typically when you see like Stellaris best of recommendations, Utopia is on there. If it's usually first, or at least it's on the list. It's almost like a mandatory purchase to bring Stellaris up to some more modern standards as far as balance and interface, and add things like megastructures, Dyson spheres, and ring worlds, which are really, really cool features. So Utopia is a must-have, and that's my number one DLC that I strongly recommend that you purchase. So we've got base game and Utopia. So my next recommended DLC is Leviathans. So this is a pack that adds space dragons to Stellaris. Okay, it adds so that's kind of the basics of what it does, at least on the surface. So it adds drakes and a couple of different varieties of dragons and large-scale living creatures, and some non-living, to the game that create a little more diversity in terms of activities that you can do, things that you can discover and interact with. Okay, so there's a couple of different storylines as far as things that you can research and interact with that come as part of Leviathans. You also get some really cool events that come with it that involve like a world that's doomed and the creature that possibly has something to do with it. And so there's a lot of surprises that come from Leviathans, and I really like the flavor that this particular DLC adds to the game. Mixed with Utopia, fighting a dragon over a ring world with your armada is just unreal. So heavily recommend Leviathans. It also adds what's called the War in Heaven. So in Stellaris you have fallen empires, and so fallen empires are these isolated empires that are extremely strong, and they're just kind of dormant. They've been there, they were probably in charge of the galaxy at some point in their history, and they've just let all that go, and they're dormant. They're not doing anything. Now, you can make them mad and they'll destroy you, or you can become more powerful than them and take them over at some point. But there is a feature called the War in Heaven, which is essentially a war between two fallen empires, and you can get kind of brought up in the middle of it. And the War in Heaven is so much fun, and it is included with Leviathans. So as far as what I recommend, definitely recommend picking up Leviathans to add a little bit more flavor and some more danger to your gaming experience. So my next DLC that I recommend is Aquatics. This is a species pack. And so what it does is it adds a couple of different origins, specifically the Ocean Paradise origin, where you start with this massive, like size 30 planet, and everybody's happy because it's an ocean paradise. And the system for that one is really cool. It's blue and has a really watery look to it. And then you have the Here Be Dragons origin, which is an origin where your empire starts out with a dragon in system that is friendly, or at least neutral, and you can kind of work with this dragon and get it to protect your home system. And so, and Aquatics is heavily laced with the nautical theme and pirate theme. You've got the dolphins and everything. So, and I think the community has adopted the name Swolefin. So, like, it's a lot of fun. It's really heavily nautical themed, and having a dragon in your home system is really cool. One of my favorite recorded playthroughs was Admiral Jim's, and it was using the Aquatics species pack. There's a lot of species packs for this game, but if I had to pick one to tell you that you really should start out with, you can't go wrong with Space Dolphins. And so the last DLC that I'll add to my list might surprise a few people actually, but it is Overlord. Overlord is one of the more recent releases from Paradox, and it is a major expansion. It completely reworked some of the ways that we use Unity, and but it's specifically focused on vassalization. So in Stellaris, you can vassalize other empires and get them to come under your empire's umbrella as a subservient empire, and you can rule them pretty much however you want. Well, Overlord added a few extra options to that, and so it really made the game in some ways about vassalization. So if you're going to take over the galaxy, it's either conquest through military force or vassalization and a little bit of diplomatic maneuvering. So vassalization is a huge part of Overlord, and I like the refinements that it made. And so I think that combined with, say, Utopia, Overlord is a great addition to the game to kind of boost some of the game's mechanics. It also added a few extra megastructures, and that is orbital rings, quantum catapults, and hyper relays. Now, quantum catapults, I think quantum catapults are just kind of one of those like niche things. Hey, they're kind of cool. You can throw it's basically a giant machine you build around a star, and it can throw your ships to other parts of the galaxy. Orbital rings are these massive space stations you build around planets. They're pretty cool, especially for defense. Hyper relays, though, are probably the main reason that I recommend this DLC, because it can turn your standard hyper lanes into these super highways. And so if you need to get a fleet from one side of the galaxy to the other, you can do it in a matter of seconds if you build a hyper relay that goes from one area in your empire to another. So Overlord is definitely on my list, and it comes in at number 4 in what I recommend. So I don't want to go too long with this video, but I do want to take a moment to offer 2 honorable mentions. Now, these are 2 DLC that I feel that you cannot go wrong if you decide that you want to pick up something extra. And so the first one we're going to talk about is First Contact. This is a recent addition to Stellaris, or at least at the recording of this video. And so First Contact has kind of 2 parts to it. And the first part is, as you see in the graphic, it has a story to it. And so it's one of the first DLC that we got that was really heavily story focused. And there is an origin in the game that lets you play as a particular empire, and it is about being that First Contact empire. And so Stellaris, for the most part, is about you being the empire, going out and exploring and conquering. Well, this particular origin puts you in the shoes of somebody who has been conquered by, say somebody that's playing Stellaris. And so you get to kind of reclaim your place among the stars. And so it also reworked how we interact with pre-FTL civilizations. So First Contact, I definitely recommend if you want to pick up something else to add a little flavor to the game. And then my final selection is Federations. So, and I know Federations is something that usually is in a lot of people's top lists, and it's certainly up there for me. But if you can spare a little bit extra to purchase an additional DLC, you can't go wrong with Federations. This is a DLC that enables you to build a hegemony with other empires. And so you can enter into an agreement with other alien empires around you, and it can be defensive, it can be mercantile. There's a whole variety of things that you can do with other empires, and it is an excellent way to absolutely dominate the galaxy without firing a shot, because you can control and manipulate your the contributions of fleet power and diplomacy with your allies, and you can conquer the entire galaxy essentially if you build a federation that controls everything, and then you're in charge of it. And so it's a really great diplomacy option if you're looking for something along those lines. I definitely recommend Federations if you can pick it up. And so we'll summarize real quick. We'll just take a look. Obviously, you can't go wrong buying the base game. It is totally playable and enjoyable by itself. For my personal recommendations as far as DLCs, if you're going to pick something up and you had to pick 4 of them, Utopia, Leviathans, Aquatics, and Overlord. Those together create quite a unique experience in Stellaris, and every one of them has something interesting to add that will make your game more enjoyable. And then I call them honorable mentions, but they are certainly value added to the game. And that's the First Contact Story Pack and Federations. And so with the 2 of those, you get a rework of pre-FTL civilizations and some spy opportunities to look at, civilizations that are, say, still in the Renaissance era. And then you have Federations, where you can build a federation, manipulate your allies, and completely conquer the galaxy without firing a shot, if that is your thing. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, something a little bit different. I don't usually do lists, and so I apologize if it's a little cumbersome and a little long, but I had a lot to say, especially about the subscription model. Bottom line, don't do it. And if you're looking to get invested in Stellaris in the long term, just don't do it. It's not a good investment. Watch for some sales on Steam and GOG, and buy the game outright. You will not be disappointed. Now, if you'd like to see some of these DLCs in action, I do regular playthroughs. I publish new videos every week of Stellaris, and so pretty much always have a playthrough going on, so you can see a lot of these mechanics in action. So, and if you like this kind of content, please leave me a like and a subscribe. Put your list. If you have a better list, or you think you have some other opinions about what you think would be a great way to get someone into Stellaris, some things that they should look at purchasing or maybe not, leave that in the comments. I'd love to start a discussion and hear what people's opinions are. And so I think that's going to be it, everybody. Thank you for watching. I'm Commander Exorcist. Take care, fly safe, and I will see you out there. Good night.